Do we give too much of ourselves to others, or do we only take into consideration our feelings and emotions, not thinking of how it will impact those around us? What really is the line between being selfish and selfless? Here are my thoughts for you. So I had a friend ask me, she's like, Nicole, what do you think is, the difference between being selfish and selfless? In those moments when it kind of seems like it could be one or the other, what are your thoughts on the difference of that? And she recommended I do a vlog on it. And I was like, this is a perfect topic. I love it. And in God's most perfect timing, the day after she brought this up to me, I was reading this book that I will probably be referencing a lot. Here it is. It is called Emotionally Healthy Spirituality by Peter Scazzero. I think I said his last name right. Sorry, Peter, if I didn't. But this book, you have to read this, okay? I 10 out of 10 recommend this book. If you are a Christian especially, and you are looking to build on your relationship with Christ and maybe delve into aspects and areas of that you have not gone into before, I recommend this book. Even if you're not religious, I still recommend this book because you learn a lot about yourself. There's a lot of self-evaluation in this book. I really recommend you read it. It's on Amazon for like $12. I'll even put the link below in the description for you. Seriously, you got to read this. It's life-changing. So in the book, Peter lays out this idea of a true self. This is the self that is unaffected and unimpressed by the voices around it. And this includes the version of your false self. So when you base your life around how others perceive you, and I'm gonna quote this book, so quote, becomes such a part of who you are that we don't even realize it. The consequences are fear, self-protection, possessiveness, manipulation, self-destructive tendencies, self-promotion, self-indulgence, and a need to distinguish ourselves from others. Notice how a lot of those tendencies start with the word self. And I think that this is telling us that we then need to have a self-evaluation, almost a self-check. This is the perfect opportunity to be selfish, not thinking about anyone else's opinions of you, but just what you think of yourself, and be honest. What kind of person are you? What are your strengths? What are your gifts? What are your weaknesses or your flaws? Be very honest and almost selfish in this evaluation of what your true self looks like. Okay, so let's talk about this true self. I love this next part in the book, and Peter lays out this quote for us. He says, "In living faithfully to his true self, he disappointed a lot of people." When he says he, Peter's referring to Jesus, but let's look more in depth at this sentence for just a moment. It says, in being true to himself, he disappointed a lot of people. Okay, I don't know about y'all, but I think that a lot of us can relate, myself included, to this sentence. Like, are you kidding me? You disappoint people by being your true self. And I think that's why we don't show the true self. We create this false self because we have been burned before by being honest and being real. And the true self, in a sense, is too vulnerable and it's too fragile to just be exposed. So then we create and identify with this false self to keep us protected from other people. But this is where you have to be selfish. You deserve to be listened to and loved and cared for just as much as the next person. You deserve to be able to be your true self. But you have to realize that with that comes the very high possibility of disappointing people. Something I think I've talked about before in, almost practicing pace is saying the necessary no. And this is a practice that even Jesus carried out himself. And guess what? It disappointed some people. he wasn't necessarily being selfish, but he knew who he was, why he was here, and what he needed to do. So I think in order to know the difference between if you're being selfish or selfless, you need to know yourself. When you Google the definition of selfish, it is defined as a person, action, or motive lacking consideration for others, concerning chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure. I think this is where that self-reflection in knowing your true self, and maybe in the words of John Christ, checking your heart, come into play. When you tell a friend that you can't hang out, what is your motive behind it? Is it that you really need time for yourself because you haven't had any all week? Or is it because you're almost trying to avoid them? I think motive needs to be at the forefront of our thoughts when we make these decisions, because is it really for your health and betterment to, take time away and maybe not hang out with someone? Or is it because you really don't care about them, so to you can act how you want or say what you want, and it doesn't really affect you because you don't care about that person? Now, let's look at the term selfless. This has been defined by Google as concern more with the needs and wishes of others than with one's own, also known as unselfish. I really believe that there is a healthy balance between the two, and Peter makes that distinction in this book when he says, quote, "Jesus was not selfless. He did not live as if only other people counted. He knew his value and worth. He had friends. He asked people to help him. At the same time, Jesus was not selfish. He did not live as if nobody else counted. He gave his life out of love for others. He had a mature and healthy true self." So I know I've been referencing Jesus and God a lot, and to some of you, you don't really understand that, or you're not really into that, and that's totally fine. But I think if you can put religion aside for, the duration of this video, that you can see that this person who is, named Jesus is laying out this example for us on how to have a healthy balance of being selfish, but also being selfless. And I think there's no better story to sum this up than Mark 1:35. So I'm gonna read this to you. It's very quick. Just to give you a background, though, in the verses leading up to this, Jesus was in this village and he was healing all these people all the day prior. So then we pick up in verse 35, and it says, "Before daybreak the next morning, Jesus got up and went out to an isolated place to pray. Later, Simon and the others went out to find him. When they found him, they said, 'Everyone is looking for you.' But Jesus replied, 'We must go on to the other towns as well, and I will preach to them too. That is why I came.'" And this goes back to that idea that Jesus knew why he was here. He knew his true purpose. As much as he wanted to help the people in one town, he came to go to many towns and show people his miracles and his power. So there again, putting the religious aspect aside, whether you agree with this or not, he practiced this pace of being selfish in that he's like, you know what? I did all this for other people. Now I need time for myself. And I think that is a beautiful picture of what living this out would actually look like. So I don't have all the answers, nor can I or anyone else evaluate your heart and do a self-reflection on you. But I think that we all need to take some time in these moments of making these decisions, process through and try to realize if we're living out of the true self or the false self. If it is the latter, it'll be extremely difficult for even us to recognize and see the true intent behind why we're acting selfishly or selflessly. If someone tells you, "No, not right now, I need to have time for myself," respect them. Trust that your relationship with that person is built upon a healthy enough foundation that they're really being honest with you, and that you can respect that. But if you feel like you're really being unappreciated, or the person is always kind of, pushing you to the side, never wanting to hang out with you, I think it is totally okay to politely confront them and just, tell them how you're feeling, and then they might share something with you that you didn't even know prior, and the relationship could always grow stronger. So I think just having open and honest communication with people that you have relationships with will make this process of sometimes being selfish and saying, no, I can't hang out with you, a lot smoother for everyone involved, because then and they know where your heart and where your mind is. There is truly a healthy balance of when to be selfless and when to be selfish. And as long as you are acting out of accordance with your true self, both you and those around you will be able to tell that you're being honest and genuine. Okay, y'all, so in typical vlog fashion, I'm going to end today's video with a quote that I wrote myself a couple weeks ago. Once people know your actions, they know your character. Once they know your character, they know your heart. And once they know your heart, they can understand the place from which your decisions are made. Thank you guys so much for watching and joining me today, and I really wish you all the best of luck in trying to practice this line and difference between being selfish and being selfless, and knowing and evaluating your true self. It is definitely a process. Please feel free to comment below anything and everything concerning this topic, situations you've been in, advice that you have, advice that you might need. Let me know below in the comments, and if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel right below this video. And as always, popping up on your screen right now is my Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Please be sure to follow me on social media as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.